वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी यशोदानंद नंदन व्रज जनरंजना यमुनातीरावनचारी यमुनातीरावनचारी जय राधा माधवा कुंज विहारी जय राधा माधव कुंज विहारी जय गोपीजन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी जय गोपीजन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजना यशोदा नंदन व्रज जनरंजना यमुनातीरावनचारी यमुनातीरावनचारी हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे जय राधा माधव राधे जय राधा रास बिहारी राधे जय गौरांगी बैंगलोरेश्वर गौरांगी जय जगन्नाथ जय बलदेवा जय सुभद्रा जय सुदर्शन जय लक्ष्मी नरसिंह जय अनंत देव लक्ष्मी नरसिंह जय अनंत देव जय निताय चैतन्य जय निताय चैतन्य निताय चैतन्य जय निताय चैतन्य जय जय प्रभुपाद जय जय प्रभुपाद जय जय गुरुदेव जय जय गुरुदेव निताय गौर हरि बोल निताय गौर हरि बोल गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल हरि नाम संकीर्तन महायज्ञ की जय जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्रजाकचार्य स्तोत्र शत His Divine Grace Abhay Charanaravindra Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. ISKCON founder Acharya, BBD founder Acharya, Savior of the whole universe, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajak Stotra Shata. His Divine Grace Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada ki jai. अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। नमाचार्य श्री हरदास ठाकुर की जय। जय श्री रूप सनातन भट्ट रघुनाथ, श्री जीव गोपाल भट्ट दास रघुनाथ, षट गौर स्वामी प्रभुगण की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद, श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। जय श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण चंद्र गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की जय। मथुरा वृंदावन धाम की जय। मायापुर नवद्वीप धाम की जय। श्री क्षेत्र श्री जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय। गंगा माई की जय, जमुना माई की जय, कावेरी माई की जय, भक्ति देवी की जय, तुलसी महारानी की जय, समवेत गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। हरे कृष्ण महामंत्र की जय। निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories and glories and glories and glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna. ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्यं नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवतं सेवया भगवती उत्तम श्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी। मुखं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुलङ्गायतिं गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुदिनतारिणं परमानन्दं माधवं श्रीचैतन्य ईश्वरं। हरि ओम तत्सत्। Hare Krishna. The reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 7. Chapter is titled as Sacrifice Performed by Daksha, and we are going to be reading from 22nd, 23rd, and 24th verse. Let's start with the 22nd verse. This Tamupagatam alakshya sarvasura ganadaya prane muhe sahasothaya ramendra triakshanayaka. Tamupagatam alakshya sarve sura ganadaya pranamukhe sahasothaya ramendra Prayaksha Nayaka. Tamupagatam Alaksha Sarvasura Ganadaya Pranimuhe Pranimuhe Sahasotaya Ramendra Prayaksha Nayaka. Word to word translation. Tam him Upagatam arrived. Alaksha after seeing. Sarve all. Suraganadaya the demigods and others. Pranemu obeisances. Sahasa immediately. Uttaya after standing up. Brahma Lord Brahma. Indra Lord Indra. Triyaksha Lord Shiva, who has three eyes. That's the reason he is called Triyaksha. Nayaka led by. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, Jai Srila Prabhupada. As soon as Lord Vishnu was visible, all the demigods, Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, the Gandharvas and all the present there immediately offered their respectful obeisances by falling down straight before him. A very important meaning of straight before him. Yeah. Anyway, we will discuss as we move forward from there. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, Jai Srila Prabhupada. It appears that Lord Vishnu is the supreme Lord even of Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma. What to speak of the demigods, Gandharvas, and ordinary living entities? It is stated in a prayer, Yam Brahma Varunendra Rudra Maruta. All the demigods worship Lord Vishnu. Similarly, Dhyanyam Chita Tat Gatena Manasa Pashyanti Yam Yogina. Yogis concentrate their minds on the form of Lord Vishnu. Thus, Lord Vishnu is worshipable by all demigods, all Gandharvas, and even Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma. Tad Vishnu Paramam Padam Sada Pashyanti Suryaha. I'm sorry. Vishnu is therefore the supreme personality of Godhead, even though Lord Shiva was previously referred to the prayers by Lord Brahma as supreme. When Lord Vishnu appeared, Shiva also fell prostrated before him to offer respectful obeisances. Let's go to the next verse. Verse number 23. Tat tejaya hatarucha sanna jivasa sada vasa murdana tirtanjali puta upat upatastur adhokshajam. Word to word translation. Tat tejasa, by the glaring effulgence of his body, Atarucha, having faded lusters, Sannajiva, having silent tongues, Sadava Saha, having fear of him, Murdana, with the head, Drita, sorry, Drita Anjali Puta, with hands touched to the head, Upatasa, Upatasatu, pray, Adokshajam, to Adokshaja, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Translation. This verse does not have a purport, so we'll read the translation. In the presence of the glaring effulgence of the bodily lustre of Narayana, everyone else's lustre faded away, and everyone stopped speaking, fearful with awe and veneration. All present touched their heads, hands to their heads, and prepared to offer their prayers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Adokshaja. Let's move to the 24th verse. Api arvagavrittayasya mahitva atmabhuva adaya yatamati grananti sma kritana gruha viragam. Word to word translation. Api, still. Avrak vrittaya, beyond the mental activities. Yasya, those. Mahi, glory. Tu, but. Atma bhuvadaya, Brahma, etc. Yathamati, according to their different capacities. Pranantisma, offered prayers. Krita anugraha, manifested by his grace. Vigraham, transcendental form. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, Jai Srila Prabhupada. Translation. Although the mental scope of even demigods like Brahma was unable to comprehend the unlimited glories of the Supreme Lord, they were all able to perceive the transcendental form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead by His grace. Only by such a grace could they offer their respectful prayers according to their different capacities. Purport. The Supreme Personality, the Supreme Lord, the personality of Godhead is always unlimited, and his glories cannot be completely enumerated by anyone, even by the personality like Lord Brahma. It is said that Ananta, a direct incarnation of Lord, has unlimited mouths, and with each mouth he was trying to describe the glories of the Lord for an unlimited span of time. Yet the glories of the Lord remain unlimited and therefore never finishes. It is not possible for any Lord, ordinary living entity to understand or to glorify the unlimited personality of Godhead, but one can offer prayers or service to the Lord according to one's particular capacity. This capacity is increased by the service spirit. Sevanmukhei Chivado means that the service of the Lord begins with the tongue. This refers to chanting. By chanting Hare Krishna, one begins the service of the Lord. Another function of the tongue is to taste and accept the Lord's prasad. we have to begin our service to the unlimited with the tongue and become perfect in chanting and accepting Lord's prasada. To accept the Lord's prasada means to control the entire set of senses. The tongue is considered to be the most uncontrollable sense because it hankers for so many unwholesome eatables, thereby forcing the living entity into the dungeon of material conditioned life. As the living entity transmigrates from one form of life to another, he has to eat so many abominable footsteps, and finally, there is no limit. The tongue should be engaged in chanting and eating the Lord's prasada so that the other senses will be controlled. Chanting is the medicine. The prasada is the diet. With this process, one can begin his service, and as the service increases, the Lord reveals more and more to the devotees. But there is no limit to his glories, and there is no limit to engaging oneself in the service of the Lord. Om Tat Sat. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport to Canto 4 of Srimad Bhagavatam, Chapter 7, chapter titled The Sacrifice Performed by Lord Daksha. And today we read verse number 22, 23, and 24. Om Ajnana-timirandasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshururmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Patakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Radha Shri Vishakam Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छा कल्पतरोभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितनां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे राम 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 हरे हरे Hare Krishna. So we continue our conversation here, the sacrifices performed by Daksha. Well, just to begin before that, I thought we'll give you a little introduction. We've been talking about this canto and this particular chapter also for some time. And we've seen in Canto 4, King Daksha. Daksha is the father-in-law of Lord Shiva. He's married his daughter Sati, and Vaishnava Namita Shambhu is Lord Shiva. He's the greatest of the Vaishnavas. And while he is the greatest of the Vaishnavas, while he is the greatest of the Vaishnava, we saw in the previous chapters how Daksha insulted him, basically starting with calling him for one of those ceremonies and not offering him any oblations. Well, Lord Shiva was there, but he did not notice Daksha because he was in trance, and he does not offer his obeisances to Daksha. And Daksha feels bad about it, and then he curses and he uses abusive language for Lord Shiva, which is the cause that Lord Shiva was actually quiet. He did not have any reactions, and no oblations were offered to him. So he leaves the assembly and then goes there without making any. So this is one quality that one needs to really look at. Despite being insulted, Lord Shiva, a Vaishnava, just takes it as the mercy of the Lord. Whatever is the Lord's mercy, and then he goes away from there. So this is one learning that all of us should look at it very closely, saying that even if you are insulted, You don't have to really worry about it. It's taking the verse from Shikshastakam. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu speaks about Trinadapi Sunichena Taronapi Saishnuna Amanina Manadena Kirtaniya Sadahari. Whether somebody respects me, somebody gives me the highest position, or somebody does not even look at me or insults me, I don't have to worry. I have to only constantly chant the holy name of the Lord, which is the most important part of our life. Because here again in the verses that we read today, 24th verse really clearly says that, starts with our tongue. Tongue is the ferocious part of our body, and everything starts with the tongue. So there are two things that were discussed about the tongue. These two things was, one is chanting the holy name and the second was honoring prasadam. Well, chanting also, we have to look at spreading the holy name. So, talk about the holy name of the Lord, talk about the pastimes of the Lord, talk about the various activities of the Lord, talk about the dham of the Lord. So our tongue, which is uh, the most ferocious part of our body, can be controlled by asking it to chant. And the second one is to eat the prasadam. Many times people feel, क्या फर्क पड़ता है यार, उसमें तकलीफ नहीं है. Eat whatever is available, eat whatever is cooked by non-devotees. But then you see over a period of time, when you eat prasadam, your mind is very much focused on the Krishna bhakti, on Krishna consciousness. You are much more calmer, you are much more sober, and tamoguna doesn't really take you over. Uh, in cases where you are actually enraged. But see, in case of others, uh, even with the smallest of the instigation, smallest of the instigation or the smallest of the spark, they flare up and they go to the extent of even killing the other person. Yeah. So I was just recently talking to somebody saying how this eating really affects your mind, because your mouth is, or your tongue is the starting point of that. This is about, it's a fact, and it's not a story. It's a fact that a young gentleman, I would call him as young because he was 50 years old, and this gentleman had the habit of eating and drinking. So one evening he comes back, not one evening, it was I would call it one morning he comes back. It was about 3:30 in the morning, and he comes back home, picks up a fight with his wife, and with a little bit of agitation that they, uh, you know, have this conversation. In the next half an hour, he hangs himself and commits suicide. At the same time, we see devotees go through so many things in their life, and they never think of such extreme steps. They always think whatever is the mercy of the Lord. Yeah. Lord Shiva also here, despite being you know instigated, insulted, humiliated by Daksha, he does not speak up anything. He says, that's the mercy of the Lord. This is a part of my karma. Maybe I'm destined to follow this. And we always have this mercy of the Lord, where it actually reduces our pains, it reduces our difficulties, it reduces all our reactions, the karmic reactions that we see, because devotee is always dependent on the Lord. So while we are looking at devotee being dependent on the Lord, he does not mind whatever comes to him. He takes it in a very positive sense, saying that yes, this one shall pass too. My Lord is always there with me, and he will take care of this. So Daksha was insulted, and Lord Shiva was insulted, and he leaves the arena, the fire sacrifice arena, from there without making a statement, without getting annoyed at anybody, and he feels it's okay, no problem. Following this, there's another ceremony which is organized by Daksha. Daksha is Prajapati. He is the origin of all the prajas, and he organizes another ceremony where he does not invite Lord Shiva and Mother Parvati. Yeah, Mother Parvati, being the daughter, I'm sure is always very attached to the father, and she feels bad about not being invited along with her husband, who's the greatest of the Vaishnavas. But then she goes and begs with, or talks to her husband, saying that if you so desire, we can go. But then Lord Shiva says, Devi, if you wish to go, you could go, but I would not be a part of this ceremony. So you'll have to pardon me. And as we all know, mothers are always a little more attached to such kinds of events and functions, and especially when it comes to going to their maternal, their parents' house, mother and father's house. They're always interested in going. So Mother Parvati decides, Mother Sati decides to go and participate in this. And when she goes there, she sees that there is no place for Lord Shiva there. There is no mention of Lord Shiva there. Her father is not even remorseful of saying that, why is my son-in-law not come? He's not even inquiring about him. On the contrary, he has no oblation for him. He has no place for him. He has no offerings for him. At the same time, he starts insulting, using very heavy words for Lord Shiva. And Sati could not tolerate this. She gets enraged. And during the conversation, she tells fathers, saying that he's the greatest of the Vaishnava. But, that ego is the biggest thing that comes into mind. While talking about ego, there are two things that one need to really look at. I was reading a book 2 days back and it says, how do we really identify our ego? And His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj very nicely describes that all of us have ego. There is no exception to anybody not having an ego. But there are two types of egos. One is the true ego and one is the false ego. Yeah. True ego is something that one can actually cultivate, and false ego of saying I am this, I am that, I am so and so, I am at this position, I'm I'm the big man, I'm the big lady kind of things is something called a false ego. Now, this false ego of Daksha was really hitting Sati very hard, and he did not respect his son-in-law. Uh, well, it is not required that uh, when it is son-in-law, yes, he deserves that place. He deserves the respect of being the son-in-law of the family. But beyond that, one should look at being Lord in the heart of every entity. So it is very important that we don't insult anybody, because in every autumn there is the residence of the Lord. Now, with every living entity, it can be any animal, it can be any tree, it can be any human being. Nobody should be insulted, because the Lord resides within the heart of every living entity. And if the Lord is not there, then there is nothing called life in that living entity. So it's very important that as devotees we understand that we have to respect everybody. What to talk about senior Vaishnavas, even an ant should be respected. And this is the lesson that I heard from a very senior devotee, His Grace Narasimha Swami Prabhu and Her Grace Vatsala Radha Mataji. They would always say, why talk about respecting another devotee? We should even respect an ant. We should even respect an animal. We should even respect a dog. Because in every entity, there is this Lord which is residing. So Lord Shiva was insulted, and Mother Sati really finds it very difficult, though she has the conversation with her father, but he's not ready because of his false ego, saying that he's the creator, he's the Prajapati. So he does not listen to her, and then finally, uh, unfortunately, very unfortunately, Mother Sati leaves her body, and when Lord Shiva gets to know about leaving the body of Mother Sati, he gets very upset about it. And his followers, it's not Lord Shiva who attacked the fire sacrificial arena. It is his followers who go and attack the place, and then all those who supported Daksha were punished accordingly. Some lost their teeth. They also cut off the head of Daksha. Uh, the others lost some of their limbs. Others lost their eyes, and there are a lot of things that really happened, because all those who supported Daksha in the wrongdoing, this is more important. All those who supported Daksha in the wrongdoing were punished by the followers of Lord Shiva. And while all this was happening, Brahma comes and requests Lord Shiva that he should stop. He should stop his followers from doing any further damage. And Lord Shiva agrees to it. And then we all know the story where you know, Daksha's head was cut off and his head was replaced by a head of a goat. That's the punishment that he gets. But then he comes back to his senses and then he realizes whatever he had done in the past was not correct, not a Vaishnava quality. He begs forgiveness from all the assembled Vaishnavas. And this chapter is all dedicated about it. This chapter is only talking about the sacrifice performed by Daksha. Yeah. And in this particular verse, the 22nd verse that we are reading today, it says, as soon as Lord Vishnu was visible, this is after Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma, they were all present, and Lord Vishnu comes in there. Uh, Gandharvas and all of them. As soon as Lord Vishnu is seen, everybody offers their respectful obeisances by falling down straight. Many times, we see devotees offering obeisances like this, even with this here, great Vaishnava. No, that's not the right thing to do. It's not in our uh, parampara. When you see a Vaishnava, when you see the Supreme Personality of Godhead, you have to fall straight, like a danda, like a stick, katak. That's the way we should really fall down and offer our respectful obeisances. And the respect should also be there in the heart. It's not only offering physical respect to them, it is more to do with offering a practical, offering and with the heart, which is involved. It is heart, mind, and body. Yeah. Your heart, your mind also should be offering, and your body should also fall down. So many times, yes, there are areas that we have to also follow this, that if you are in a temple, then you cannot offer obeisances in front of the deities when the altar is open. So that time you can offer it with your mind. Yeah. Or while you're walking on the road, you can offer it with your mind and with folded hands. You need not fall on the road. That's not the right thing. People will start thinking what is happening. So uh, Srila Prabhupada says time, place, and circumstances play a very important role for all the devotees. And we see that our Vaishnavas, our Acharyas, our current parampara also follow this very carefully. When they meet their god brothers, how much ever junior or how much ever senior they are, they have so much of love and affection towards them, and they offer their obeisances and they offer their greetings and they offer their exchange of love that really happens, you know, between these followers or anugas of Srila Prabhupada, disciples of Srila Prabhupada. And that way, everybody offered their respectful obeisances by falling down straight before him. And in the presence of, in the next sloka, it is spoken about it, saying that in the presence of Lord Vishnu or Lord Narayana, everybody else's lustre, the effulgence that everybody had. We all know, we have seen the pictures of demigods, and we've seen the pictures of Lord Shiva, Brahma, everybody. They are so effulgent by default because they are great devotees of the Lord. That's the first thing. Second thing is because they are in a position much, much higher. Demigods are much, much higher, and they are the direct associates of the Lord. So they have effulgence. But when Lord Narayana comes there, their effulgence was all kind of reduced. Not that it was reduced, it was faded away because, when you see sunlight, a small bulb which is lit does not have any light to be given because the sun is shining bright. So the Lord is compared to the sun, and the bulb is compared to the demigods or the other Vaishnavas, Gandharvas, and all of them. So, and with the respect, this is again about talking about the respect, and everybody stopped talking. Yeah. Though it says fearful with awe, it is not fearing, saying that, Lord Narayana is going to do anything. It's with awe and veneration, with that respect that one has for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Then they touch their hands to their heads and prepare to offer their obeisances to Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is also known as Dokshaja. Yeah. So that's another name of Lord Shiva. Lord Vishnu, Narayana, Adokshaja. Yeah. In the next verse, here also it says that, It is not possible even for demigods like Brahma or the others to comprehend the unlimited glories of the Supreme Lord. They were able to perceive the transcendental form of the Lord by His grace. It is because of the mercy of the Lord. Today also, if we are all sitting together and hearing this katha, the mercy of the Lord, the grace of the Lord is there. That is why we are able to hear. Otherwise, what is the population of the world and how many people are today uh, Krishna conscious or God conscious, or even otherwise, if you see, they are sattvic, very few people. So it takes the grace of the Lord, which is the most important part of it. Here, even demigods like Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma are saying that it is the grace of the Supreme Personality of Godhead that they are able to kind of, perceive the form, what to talk about us. So it is only the grace of the Lord that today we are able to hear this katha. Srila Prabhupada's mercy that, He came and gave us this knowledge, and He built the society for us where the whole world could live. And in the last line of the purport, of the translation, it says, only by such grace could they offer their respectful prayers according to their different capacities. It enumerates here very clearly saying that everybody has their capacity, even in demigods. Not that every demigod is of the same stature or of the same capacity. No, some of the demigods have little lower capacity, some of them higher capacity. Well, never to differentiate between them. We offer them our respectful obeisances as Vaishnavas and devotees of the Lord. We don't differentiate and say this is small and this is big. No, not at all. We should never do that differentiation. For us, we have to also see them with reverence because they are demigods and they are very dear. Lord, they are a great devotee of the Lord, right? So here, in the last line of the translation, it says, only by such grace could they offer the respectful prayers according to their different capacities. Yeah. In the purport that we saw in the last purport, it says Anantashesh has how many hoods, how many mouths? Unlimited. So it may not be possible for one, with one mouth to understand and glorify the unlimited personality of Godhead. Yeah. And the capacity is increased as we do the service. So nicely it is given by chanting, or even before that, it says the capacity is increased by the service spirit. So one should have that attitude of serving the Vaishnavas. One should have the attitude of serving the deities. One should have the attitude of serving the others. And it says, Sevon Mukhehi Jivado. It means that the service of the Lord begins with the tongue. The more one does this service of the tongue, the more he gets realization, the more he gets bhakti of the Lord, the more he gets the taste of the Lord. And this taste comes when you do the chanting, when you talk about the Lord, and when you honor prasadam. These are things that one can do. And the most uncontrollable organ of our body can be controlled very easily by accepting the prasadam. So it says, the tongue is considered to be the most uncontrollable sense because it hankers for so many unwholesome eatables. Yeah, very rightly, Srila Prabhupada has put this word, unwholesome eatables, therefore, thereby forcing the living entity into the dungeon of material condition of life. So when we start eating unwholesome eatables, what is unwholesome? Unwholesome. Unwholesome is something which is not good for this body, and what is not good for a body is something which is not offered to the Lord. So, very, if we read Srila Prabhupada's purports itself, there's so much meaning that it comes and hits you. But most of the time, it so happens, at least with me, I can say, it is only for the sake of reading. Some of us read, or at least for myself, I read it, and you don't really focus on what you're reading. Yeah. But when you really put this little extra effort, then the understanding is so nice given by Srila Prabhupada. And at the end, Srila Prabhupada also gives saying that, when we transmigrate from one body to another body, we eat so many things. For example, the cat doesn't know what it's eating. The hog eats shit, but he doesn't know that it is eating shit. And he enjoys it, or she enjoys that shit also. So Srila Prabhupada says that, He has to eat so many abominable foodstuffs that finally there is no limit. You can see people eating so many things. Human beings also have become like that. They eat non-veg. They, you know, cut the smaller entities or small living beings and try to enjoy the senses, which actually it has no limit. The tongue should be engaged in chanting and eating the Lord's prasada so that the other senses will be controlled. Yeah. And Srila Prabhupada at the end says chanting is the medicine and prasad is the light. So if we have actually come to this material world, we are actually patients. For us, the chanting is the medicine and prasadam eating is the diet. With this diet and the medicine, we can get completely cured and go back home, back to Godhead. And that's the whole idea of this. And at the last sentence, Srila Prabhupada says, with this process, one can begin his service. So it doesn't mean that we are ending it just. So many times we feel that, okay, now I'm chanting my rounds. I'm chanting my prescribed rounds, either 1 round, 2 round, 4 round, 8 round, 12 round, 16 rounds, or whatever number of rounds beyond 16 also. And I'm eating only prasadam. So now my life is perfected. No, Srila Prabhupada gives that underline here. With this process, one can begin his service. It is just the starting point. You've just become human being if you've started eating prasadam and if you've started chanting. Otherwise, you are compared to an animal, to four-legged animal. So we become four-legged animal, two-legged animal when we don't eat prasadam or don't chant the holy name of the Lord. So he says the one can begin his service, and as this service increases, the Lord reveals more and more to the devotees. But there is no limit to his glories. Even Anantashesh is not able to chant the glories of the Lord despite having unlimited hoods. Yeah. So there is no limit to his glories, and there is no limit to engaging oneself in the service of the Lord. There's unlimited opportunity for us to engage in the service of the Lord. Unlimited seva that we can do. There's unlimited chanting that one can do. But one needs to start with the chanting, that is the medicine, and start with the prasadam, which is the diet. And this process, once it begins, slowly takes you off. So that's about today's conversation on the subject. Thank you very much for your patient hearing. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. Or if there are any corrections, we see quite a few devotees here. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. And if there are any doubts or comments, please go ahead and make the statement. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. If there are no questions, we will. Okay. So, today is another very auspicious day. Today is Ananta Chaturdashi, and it is also Srila Haridas Thakur's disappearance day. Maybe we can spend 2 minutes on talking about Srila Haridas Thakur. Haridas Thakur was a great Vaishnava, and he was a very close associate of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He was also given the upadhi, of Namacharya. Why do we call him Namacharya? Because he's the Acharya of the Nama. He would continuously chant the holy name of the Lord. He would chant 64 rounds loudly. He would chant 64 rounds softly, and he would chant another 64 rounds in the mind. So he would chant 64, 64, 64. He would not even take prasad if he has not completed his rounds. So such is the vow of Srila Haridas Thakur. And he's such a fortunate soul or a devotee that at the last part of his time, he spent time with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would come there. He would get prasadam from Jagannath Mandir and give it to give it to Haridas Thakur. And finally, when Haridas Thakur left his body, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu lifted up himself. Went around Jagannath Puri, danced in Kirtan, and then performed the final rites of Haridas Thakur. So think of a soul who can be more fortunate than Haridas Thakur because the Lord himself did his final rites. And not only that, he did final rites, after that, he also hosted a huge feast. So that is how, when a Vaishnava leaves this mortal world, we celebrate. We actually, yes, there is in one sense, his physical presence will not be there with us, his association or her association will not be there with us. But nevertheless, when he goes back home or she goes back home, we celebrate that with a feast. So he hosted a very big feast for all the devotees, and they exemplified, or they chanted the glories of Haridas Thakur for all of us to imbibe. So it is very important here also in the shlokas that we discussed today. The chanting is the most important part of it. So our obeisances to uh, Haridas Thakur, our Acharya, and prayers at his lotus feet, saying that give us also the kind of attachment that you had towards chanting of the holy name. Give us the ruchi that you had towards the chanting of the holy name, and offer respectful obeisances to him. So thank you very much, and I thank the temple management for giving me this opportunity to speak today on Grantaraj, Srimad Bhagavatam, and a little bit on Haridas Thakur. I thank all the devotees for their uh, blessings, so that I could speak something. Thank you very much. Let's offer our humble obeisances to all the Vaishnava devotees. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Shri Haridas Thakur ki jai, Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Thank you very much. I'll end the session. In case if there is any question, you can ask. Otherwise, in the next 1 minute, we will end the session here.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandot Pranam.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Thanks for the nectarian class. Just
Krishna's mercy.
I have a sharing. You told that not only the respect to Vaishnavas, and also one should respect all the jivas, including animals, dog, aquatics, everything. Thank you, Prabhuji, for the bringing out that point nicely. Thank you.
Thank you for your observation, Prabhu. Something very, very important. As I said, I have heard it from a very senior Vaishnava, and they would always tell us that even respect the man. So that's very nice. Thank you very much for that observation. Yes, Mataji, you had something to mention.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. So we'll end our session here. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bo.